Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we have some very odd news coming out of Disney. Now, this is, I shouldn't say odd necessarily, but this is something that I think a lot of people thought could happen, and it is happening. And that is that Bob Iger has taken the responsibilities of CEO back from Bob Chapek, who just took over the role basically about a month ago. And I made a video about that at the time, that Chapek would be taking over for Iger. And the thing is that Iger was sticking around he's the executive chairman on the board of trustees for Disney. So was still heavily involved in the company, even though he was not the CEO. And there's a few reasons behind this. Now, apparently, what is basically it feels like almost that these two are kind of in a dual role right now. Bob Chapek is not really. He's not very experienced in this role, obviously. He's only had the job for a little over a month. So for Iger, who is still on the Disney staff, to be brought back in is not surprising given the world events. But basically, what's being inferred is that Iger is there so that they can try and plan for the company after the point in time when the coronavirus kind of tapers off, and they can have people start coming back to parks. Um, and apparently, he has also stated that they're going to try and take some precautionary measures when they start reopening parks, whenever that's going to be. And stuff like taking patrons' temperatures before they enter the park and stuff like that to make sure that they don't spread the coronavirus. And here's the thing. Um, until there is a legitimate vaccine for this virus, you're not going to see people going back to public places in droves. At least I don't think you will. Because I think the problem is that it's not even the stigma. It's the fact that people don't know that there's not necessarily, how's the best way to explain this? There's no cure for it, no surefire cure for it. So people are probably not going to take the chance unless they're very young people. And I think that is a majority of what Disneyland and Disney World are, and most of their theme parks around the world. They're built for kids. But the thing is that grandma and grandpa ain't gonna be able to go. Stuff like that. But the other thing is the idea of downsizing the company after this, because they have lost a lot of money. I forget how much money they're actually losing per day closing their parks, somewhere in the 20 to 50 million range. Again, per day, and they've been closed down for a while now. I think at least 2 or 3 weeks. So the whole thing with it is just they're just hemorrhaging money right now. So basically Iger is trying to mitigate the damage, which is essentially like putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. But the point is that he has more experience than Chapek. So I assume Chapek is still taking over some amount of duties. He still has the official title as CEO, but Iger has basically kind of because of his experience, he kind of trumps Chapek, and he is they're kind of splitting duties. Now, the other thing is that Chapek has been very, very silent as of late. Well, I shouldn't say as of late. He's been silent, period, since taking the job. And Iger has really been the only person that we've seen kind of make press releases. So, again, this might also be a method of, because Chapek is pretty green at the position, they're giving it to Iger because they're letting Iger do the press releases because he's used to this. Now, that is one interpretation of these events. The other interpretation, which I don't think is as likely but is possible, is that this was something that was planned for a very long time. And the only reason why Bob Iger chose to step down as Disney CEO as abruptly as he did, and give Chapek the role, was because he wanted a different figurehead at the head of the company, because he was tired of getting shit for all the stuff that was happening. He was tired of getting shit for Star Wars. He was tired of getting shit for Marvel. He was tired of having to deal with all the PR problems and everything like that. And he probably just didn't care near the end in terms of like if he aired out dirty laundry because of that tell-all that he put out midway through last year. So it could have been the fact that he literally went to Disney and said, "Look, or he went to the board of chairman, or whoever kind of can check him from a point of view, because he is the CEO, so he pretty much runs the company outside of the person who actually, well, who actually owns the company. So the Walt Disney. Actually, I don't know if they sold it, to be honest. I'm not sure about the internal corporate workings of Disney, but Iger is definitely, obviously, near the top, if not the top. So the point is that he could have just went to them and said, "Look, I'm well into my retirement age. Just give me a secondary position and I'll still run the company. Put some schmuck up there as a front man to take all the flack, and I can just run the company behind the scenes really quietly, and nobody will know." So that could be one of those things, but obviously, if that was the case, everybody knows about it now. So they did a very poor job at hiding it. They have stated that they are not using the Zoom program in order to do video conferences because it's very easily hackable. I don't know what they are using. Probably just some kind of video call system or something on a secure network. But the thing is that it could go one of two ways going down the road, because the thing is that Iger, and also there were reports that Disney would be downsizing their employees as well as their budgets. And Iger said that is not up to him. That is up to that is up to Chapek, who is, he says his successor, but that is Chapek. And the thing with that is that he's kind of passing the buck to Chapek because, and Chapek hasn't said anything. So he's basically passing the buck to a mute, at least right now. So I don't really see the point in kind of carrying on with what we're doing in terms of, or I shouldn't say that, but the thing is that he's passing all of this stuff off to somebody who has not said a word. So is it really that guy's decision? I don't think. I really don't think it is. I think it's Iger's decision on whether or not they downsize the employees. But he stated that he is not. He never said that, and he would not be doing that. So that's at least good news for Disney employees. At least people that want to get their jobs back after this. But he did mention something about, they don't want to produce television pilots that are never going to air. But here's the other thing about that is that means that you are cutting down again on originality. And here's the thing: Disney has, and this is something that they've kind of locked themselves into a hard place now, and the coronavirus has kind of helped with it. Or helped kind of put them in a corner, because what's happened is that Disney released Disney Plus. Now, what wound up happening was that Disney Plus opened up. It's developed a good user base now. I think it's above 50 million users. I think it just passed that. So they're getting people on the service somehow. But early on, they didn't really have a lot. So I think they were greenlighting a lot of stuff. They were kind of doing the Netflix thing, but I think they were greenlighting a lot of things, and a lot of them didn't pan out for various reasons. So Iger is basically saying that they're not going to be taking those risks anymore, which I think again is a problem with Hollywood. But I understand from the financial perspective of it, at least right now. But the thing is that Disney has more money than God, even though they're in debt. Even though they are in debt because of the Fox deal, or I shouldn't say in debt, but even though they had a significant reduction in their money due to the Fox deal, they still have more than enough money to produce a television pilot. It wouldn't take that much. But in terms of the big picture, I'm not saying in terms of the actual amount it would take. If you're making a big budget television show, each episode is probably going to be at least a couple $1 million. But the whole thing is that it's completely subjective right now on what you kind of subscribe to, and we're not going to know for sure until this thing is over or until this thing is kind of tapered off. And if Iger gives the role back to Chapek, then we know that Iger was just stepping in during this process to try and help Disney through the transitionary period. If he doesn't, then we know exactly what it was, and it was that Chapek is literally a figurehead, and that is it. He is not there to actually run the company, and Iger is basically working as a puppeteer behind the scenes. So it's really one of two outcomes, and I'm not 100% sure which one it is. Like I said, we'll probably know. We'll pretty much know for sure after the virus tapers off and Disney parks start to open again. Um, Whether or not Iger kind of relinquishes a lot of his duties back to Chapek. So it's going to be interesting moving forward, but it's definitely a piece of news that is not the norm. This is pretty big news that Iger is taking this back. But I want to know what you think. Do you think that this is just, a precautionary thing during the coronavirus pandemic, or do you think that this is, something that they were planning for a while and they kind of fast tracked a little bit, or they got sloppy and they let leak that he's actually, kind of calling the shots behind the scenes, and that was going to be their idea from the beginning. Put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?